How do I raise a child to have confidence, to be self-motivated, to have grit, to know how to deal with his or her own anxiety? This is often questions. These are often questions that I receive from listeners, from you guys. When you join my Facebook group, if you sign up for one of my free challenges on my website, just head on over to heatherchauvin.com. After you sign up, there is this option to go into a Facebook group. So when you go into the Facebook group, I ask, what question do you have for me? And when it pertains to parenting, these are often the questions that I receive of how do I help my child with their anxiety, self-motivation, self-esteem. And these were the questions that I wanted answered as a parent when I started this process, back in the day when I was a social worker. And, I was watching my son who had absolutely no control over his anxiety. And it was worried me. I was terrified. And so since then, that's almost 8 years ago, I have been working with women around the world, diving into helping your children, helping you live the life that you want. But to be honest, I keep coming back like, okay, well, how do I help these people solve these problems? And the truth is, you have to know how to solve these problems in your own life, in your own being. And to be honest, I don't want to tell you that as the answer. I don't. I wish there was another way. It doesn't matter how much research I do. It doesn't matter how many professionals I talk to, the gurus who write the books, the experts, the quote unquote experts. It all comes back to tools and strategies. But guys, how can you teach your child how to drive a car if you don't know how to drive a car? How can you teach your child to speak another language if you do not know how to speak the other language? But what happens is, what do you tell yourself? I don't want to. I don't want to do this. That's hard. That's hard work. That's really uncomfortable. I don't want to go there, right? So you have to. I'm sorry. You have to. Parenting is a privilege, and it is a damn hell of a big responsibility too. And one of the responsibilities that you clearly don't have to sign up for is telling people that if you want your child to become anything, you have to learn that skill, learn that tool, learn that strategy, and be willing to do the work on yourself so that you can then teach it to your child or the children around you. Because as you and I can both see, the old way of being and the old way of parenting is no longer working. So we'll talk about that in a second. So we are in the month of late September 2018 when I'm recording this, and I'm starting to think about next year already. We have a few spots left in our mastery program, and then it will be full, and we will not be relaunching it until like June-ish next year. Maybe once in a while I might open it. I don't think I will be. To be honest, I don't know where the future is going to take it. Why? Because with all growth in business and in life and parenting, things shift, and I'm feeling that shift happen. Not so much in who I'm serving, because I'm still serving ambitious women, mothers, who want to be the change that they wish to see in their children. You want to find that emotional freedom, but in the capacity of how I am doing this. So I have a few ideas and I want to run it by you. So if you are an avid podcast listener and you would love to have a 15-minute conversation with me, I would love to pick your brain. In exchange, of course, I might give you some feedback or something like that. So I've set up a link. You can go to heatherchauvin.com/coffee date. It's a link to my time trader, so that's just set up to my calendar. This Saturday, I have a few hours set aside in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, so if you're Pacific, it might be, at the ass crack of dawn in the morning for you. But what I'm doing is I just want to get into your brain. If you know anything about business, it's about solving a problem for you that's in alignment with, a problem that you have and how I want to serve the world or how I can serve the world. And I just have a few ideas of services that I want to be able to provide, the ways that I want to provide it. And I also just want to know, what are you challenged with right now? So anyone who listens to the podcast, especially if you're an avid listener, can take advantage of this. You get a free 15-minute chat with me, and then that's it. So I'm just going to ask you some simple questions, whatever you're challenged with. I might actually point you in a direction of go try out this resource, or you might want to connect with this person or read this book or do whatever. Other than that, if you just want to chat for 15 minutes on a Saturday morning and have a coffee together, totally happy to do that. Trying to give back to you guys in a way of saying thank you. And I know some of you would love to connect with me, so this is an opportunity to do that. And then in the sense, I would just love to get some feedback on some products and services that I have coming out, and would love your feedback. So again, 100% free, no strings attached, just me hanging out with you with a warm cup of coffee on Saturday morning. So all you have to do is go to Heather Chauvin. So my last name is spelled CHAUVIN.com/coffee date. And then you will get confirmation of your call, and there is a Zoom conference link, and the information will be there, and then you and I will just connect on that conference call. Okay, so now that we've set up our coffee date, let's talk about helping your child be self-motivated, how to deal with their anxiety, and all of these fun things. If you've been following me for a while, you might think I'm repeating myself, because I'm starting to think that I am. But let's talk about the self-motivation for 1 second. I was with some individuals the other day, and, these are people old enough to be my parents. And they looked at me and said, "Oh, good for you. You're doing well, Heather. You're so self-motivated. You're motivated, you're confident." And I laughed hysterically. And they're like, "What's so funny?" And I said, Fear is a really good motivator." And they looked at me. And they're like, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "The only reason why I am where I am today is because I used to be, not so much now. I used to be. My whole business model, my whole business started on the fear of who my children will become if I didn't do the work. That was it. That's why I started my business. That's why I created the program, Teach Your Kid to Meditate, because I was freaking terrified that if I didn't figure my shit out and feel in control of my life, that my children were going to be 40 years old, living in my basement for the rest of their lives, and I was screwed. So fear is a great motivator, but it doesn't have to keep you motivated, right? Sometimes I see people say, I need to hustle right now. I need to push because I need money. And yes, when you're living in survival mode, you need to hustle a little bit, right? To be able to pay the bills, to be able to put food on the table for your kids. But there comes a time and a place where you don't need to do that anymore, and you can start scaling, and you can make your life easier. You can work smarter, not harder. So self-motivation. There is a big issue, guys, huge issue in the parenting industry where, they're not even calling them helicopter parents anymore. Now they're calling them lawnmower parents. I don't even know if you've heard this. So helicopter parenting is when you are just hovering over your child. I see this all the time at birthday parties. I see this everywhere my children go, right? Just parents hovering, stressed out, burnt out, overwhelmed. Like, "Oh, let me get that for you. Oh, let me do that. Don't do that, little Johnny. Oh, gee, Now, what they're talking about, lawnmower parents are worse than helicopter parents, because these parents literally try to do everything in their power to cut down the path for their children and cut everything out. No, there's no failure, right? It's like, I've created this for you. I've done this for you. All you is turnkey. You don't have to do anything. I've done all the hard work for you. What I'm starting to realize is the shit show, the resiliency, the grit, that is when you make your children work for something. And yes, it's really hard when, your children go to school and they see other kids having things or opportunities and they have to work for it. But this is where you are teaching children about grit and self-motivation. And in the moment, yes, they're not going to like you. They're going to say, you're mean, you're this, you're not like everybody else. But guys, your 8-year-old does not need to have a cell phone. I don't care if they walk home from school. I'm pretty sure in 20 years, it's going to be legal to microchip your children. I'm not kidding. Anxiety is a big issue. It is one of the leading mental health conditions affecting children today. Why is that? Do you think you, as a parent, with your energy and how you show up, has anything to do with that? Maybe. I know that when my children are more anxious, if I'm off my game and my middle son, who has a little bit of sensory processing stuff, if our house is in utter chaos and I'm off, he goes from 0 to 60 just like that. He's a great gauge of what is happening in the house because he is so highly sensitive. That said, your children's emotions are not your emotions. But just like you are affected by the weather or the flow of traffic, or, when somebody else walks in the room and you're like, oh, she's so negative, or he's so angry, and I can feel their anger being projected out. I don't like being around them. Your children are affected by your energy as well. So if you are hiding something in your life, if you're not being authentic to yourself, if you're trying to mold and shift your way out into the world to please everybody else, you are eventually going to crack. So, how do you teach a child to be self-motivated? How do you teach them to have grit? How do you teach them to deal with their own anxiety? How do you teach them all of these things? Over the past 8 years of diving down the rabbit hole of functional medicine, integrative medicine, holistic medicine, energy healing, coaching, and forward-thinking paradigm in parenting, and looking at what's not working, I constantly feel like I am swimming upstream when I'm speaking this message. Some people get it, and some people still say to me, how do I get my child to listen to me? And I ask you, are you listening to your child? Are you listening to yourself? We are not listening to ourselves, and we're trying to do everything and give to our children. But the one thing that we forgot, the big missing key, the missing ingredient that is going to click all the pieces together, that is going to allow you to take your power back, is doing the fucking uncomfortable work that you don't want to do, that nobody else can do for you. If you want to teach a child grit, you have to be willing to get gritty. I don't even know if that's a word. If you want to teach a child self-motivation, you better damn well know how to deal with resistance. Because if you don't understand your own resistance, if you don't understand how that ugly demon makes its way in your own life, then how the heck are you supposed to have those conversations with your children? How many times, depending on how old your child is, if you've had the conversation at the schools, I know he can do it. He has so much potential, but he's not using his full potential. Now, if you put a mirror in front of your face and said that, oh, would it come smacking you back in the face? Who is his role model for showing him what it looks like to live in your potential? Who is her role model to show her what confidence looks like, what self-motivation looks like, what perseverance looks like, what grit looks like, what feeling in control of your anxiety looks like? Tapping into your body wisdom, understanding how your thoughts will play tricks on you. Who is going to teach her that? It will not be the therapist that you bring her to once a week that charges you $100 every single time. And then when you leave that therapist's office or that workshop or whatever, going, what did you learn? I don't want to talk about it. Your children are here to teach you something. They are here to wake you up. They are here to show you your true potential. Becoming your best self is the greatest gift that you can give to them. When your child looks at you and says, Mom, I am so proud of you. And I think about all those nights that maybe I missed, bedtime, or I was unable to read, or I missed bath time. But I was there to get them on the bus and off the bus, and I was able to run to the school if needed. Or maybe I could take a Friday afternoon off and meet them for lunch. You cannot be everything to your children, but you can be everything for yourself. You can become the person that you've been looking for. Okay, my rant is over. I'm off my soapbox. So, I'm probably going to get a little angry. Not angry, passionate. It's not anger, it's passion. About these questions that you guys are asking me. How do you teach a child grit? How do you teach them to be self-motivated? How do you teach them anxiety? Ask yourself, how do I do these things myself? And if you have no freaking clue, then you got to learn those skills, baby. And if you don't know how, figure it out. All right, I'm done. So two options, two things, two calls to action right now. One, if you want to have a coffee date on Saturday, I would absolutely love to pick your brain about the direction of Mom is in Control in 2019. In exchange, of course, if anything pops up and I have an aha moment or a resource for you, I will definitely point you in that right direction. Other than that, you and I will just be chatting on Saturday morning. So head on over to Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN.com/coffee date. If you are ready, so ready, you're like, I'm done with my own bullshit. You've been listening to me forever. You want somebody to hold you accountable, somebody to hold that bigger vision for you, also give you the tools and the strategy. This isn't just about coaching. I have a whole wackadoodle library of resources to point you in the right direction, to help you feel in alignment with the life that you want to be living. This is what it's going to look like in your parenting, your relationships, money, time, energy. And depending on where you are right now in this moment, we will start where you're at. So you don't have to deal with all these problems at once. It's going to be what your biggest pain point is. So if parenting is your biggest pain point, then we will start there. If marriage is your biggest pain point, we will start there. If money is your biggest pain point, then we will start there, or time or energy. But your first step is to head on over to momisincontrol.com. So this is my mastery program. Head on over to momisincontrol.com. And I want you to apply now. Once you fill out the application, I personally read and respond, and then we will get you on the phone for your intro call to see if it's a good fit. And then the rest is history. So all you have to do is show up and take the next small baby step towards creating the life that you want. And if you're like, nope, coaching is not my thing, I don't want to do that, I don't want to talk to Heather this Saturday, then get your ass over to my website at heatherchauvin.com and check out the free resources that I have on my site. The Mom is in Control Challenge is a great place to start. Lots of strategic action. So when you ask me, I'm overwhelmed, what do I do? Where do I start? Check out that free challenge. Great place to start, helping you create that momentum in the direction that your soul craves. Talk soon, ladies.